hours on important matters that you're all so vested in. I appreciate all your patience. You know, when I first took office, I made a promise to New Yorkers that public safety would be my #1 priority, and that I would do everything in my power to keep New Yorkers safe. Since then, we have enacted the strongest gun safety laws in the nation. I'm extremely proud of this, particularly after the horrific shooting in my hometown of Buffalo on May 14, 2022, when a teenager gunned down 10 of my neighbors. And since then, we have been vigilant, diligent in trying to find ways that we can protect New Yorkers even more. And while we had enormous success with those initiatives, then after the Supreme Court struck down in the Bruin case our right to protect people from concealed carry weapons, we came back together again and addressed that. And so this is what we have to do. But instead of always being reactive, we're also proactive. And that's what today is all about. So today I'm going to be signing 3 important bills that further strengthen our gun laws. The first is adding pistol converters to the definition of rapid-fire modification devices. And I want to thank our sponsors, Senator Majority Leader Gianaris and Assemblymember Jeffrey Dinowitz. Thank you for your support. We'll be hearing from everybody in a few minutes. Also, strengthening the warnings that gun dealers must provide to customers about the risks of firearms. And that sponsor is Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel and Assemblymember Joanne Simon. And the third is refining how credit card companies track purchases at gun dealerships. This gives law enforcement the opportunity to find out exactly who may be stockpiling ammunition. And this is an indicator that something untoward could be happening. So it's an important data point for us to have. And as sponsors, Senators Eleanor Myrie and Assemblymember Szilagyi, I appreciate their support as well. So bottom line is the 3 pieces of legislation I'll be signing today with my colleagues will we'll continue our efforts to make New Yorkers safer. But I also want to say we have a lot of accomplishments, and you should all be proud of this. Since I took office, I've been tracking the data. One of the first things I did was create an interstate gun task force, the first in the nation. I think we now have 11 states that cooperate, share data, and we've done a tremendous amount in getting guns off the streets, in addition to our red flag laws. And we can take credit for 10,000 guns being off the streets of New York. And here's the data I want you to know. It's brand new data. In 2025, shootings are down 53% year to date over the pre-pandemic peak, or the pandemic peak of 2022, which is when I took office. Shootings are down 53%, murders are down about 40%. That is extraordinary. And we were on a trajectory where the numbers kept going higher and higher and higher, and people were thinking, when is this going to stop? And we stood up and said, no more. And we together have invested over $2 billion in fighting crime in this state, and it is paying off. These are local investments to help violence disruptor groups and to help more resources and technology for police officers. I've increased the ranks of the state police. But I'm really proud of that, and this is the lowest statewide shooting numbers in a decade. So I just want to say this. We are doing what we can do, but Republicans in Washington also have an opportunity to look at what we've done in a place like New York. I dare say there is not a Republican state that can match our statistics. Compare us to states that don't care about protecting their citizens, because you cannot say you're tough on crime but be soft on guns. And that's what we're hearing out there all the time. So I want others to look at our state as a model. Do what we have done, because we are literally saving lives, and the numbers don't lie. So we're going to continue to call on Republicans in Washington to stop blocking common sense legislation and protections against gun violence. And I'm really proud to sign these bills. And even this year, we have another $370 million to assist in our gun violence disruptors and other programs. So we know these laws save lives. And again, I could not be prouder to join all of our individuals and sponsors here today. Any of our sponsors want to say a couple words before I sign? All right. Senator.
Schedule there.
Thank you. Majority Leader Mike Gianaris.
Thank you, Governor Hochul. On behalf of Majority Leader Andrew Stewart-Cousins, who I know was in this room with you for much of the afternoon, trying to finish up the budget. We bring our greetings and support and thanks on behalf of the Senate for the continued efforts to reduce gun violence. I'm joined by Senator Rivera. I know Senator Kavanaugh and Senator Fahey were here earlier but had to depart, and also Senator Myrie and Senator Hoylman-Siegel, who sponsored 2 of the bills that you're signing. New York has among the toughest gun laws in the nation. We talk about that all the time. The governor just pointed it out again. What we don't talk about enough is how the data supports how effective that is. We are among the lowest states in the entire nation in terms of gun violence. And that is not a coincidence that we have the strongest gun laws and the lowest rates of gun violence. Those things are directly related. In fact, the other states that compete with us for gun safety are other states that have tough laws: New Jersey, Massachusetts, California. It's not a coincidence that the gun violence is worse where the gun laws are worse. And as the governor pointed out, they tend to be red states. So we have to do what we can here in New York to protect our residents. And in fact, today is just another example of doing that. The governor deserves a tremendous amount of credit. She's obviously working with us to try and close out the budget these days, but has not lost sight of the fact that we have other work to do at the same time. So here we are, once again, standing unified, Assembly, Senate, and Executive, to say we will do whatever it takes to ensure that the people we represent are safe. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
And I want to bring up the sponsor of the bill I passed in the Senate on the Assembly side, Assemblymember Jeff Dinowitz.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Senator Gineris, and thank you, Governor Hochul. It's pretty clear that the work that we have done on gun legislation in recent years has saved countless lives. And these three bills are just three more bills in that vein. We're trying to save lives. We're trying to keep people safe. And I should say that in our House, the Republicans to a man, oh wait, there are 3 women out of their 47. The Republicans to a person voted against these bills. They vote against every one of the bills, but our conference supported these because we know that this is going to make a difference. And if you look at the data, a very high percentage of the people who have guns and where people have died, it was suicides. A high percentage of gun deaths are suicides, and a very, very high percentage of suicides are by way of guns. So it's pretty obvious that we need to take as much action as possible. And the bill that Senator Gineris and I passed is really very simple and straightforward. It requires the posting of a warning in gun shops, and essentially the warning says that with guns there are higher rates of suicide, of domestic violence, and other really bad things. And it's a simple warning. It's not a big mandate or imposition on anybody, but I'm convinced that like all the other things that we've passed, that the governor has signed in recent years, we will save lives, and I think that's our job. So again, thank you, Governor, for signing these 3 bills.
All right, thank you.
And I am happy to introduce my wonderful colleague from Nassau County, Assemblymember Solage.
Thank you to the governor and to all my colleagues. We say loud and proud that we care about the lives of our children, we care about lives of New Yorkers, and that we will ensure that they can walk these streets in a safe manner and not have to worry about going to the grocery store or movie theater or any other location and being shot by guns. And so I thank all my colleagues for standing with us. You know, in 2016, before the Pulse nightclub shooting, the monster or the attacker used credit cards to purchase thousands of dollars worth of guns and ammunition. Same thing happened in 2017 during the Las Vegas shooting. The individual bought 50 firearms and stockpiled over $90,000 worth of ammunition. And what was the pattern? He used a credit card. You know, financial institutions use MCC codes to track credit card fraud, money laundering, human trafficking. And so today in New York, we're saying that we're going to include firearms and ammunition in that tracking because we want to make sure that our families are safe. And so I'm just really proud to stand with Senator Myrie and the many tireless advocates who fought for this reality that we live in today, who fought to ensure that these gun laws move forward through the legislative process. But let me be clear, this is not about banning guns. It's not about blocking legal purchases. It's not about infringing on anyone's Second Amendment rights. It's about introducing a layer of oversight and saving lives. So again, New York leads. Again, we say that we're not waiting for the next tragedy to act with data, with courage, and with common sense. So I thank my colleagues and the governor for standing tall and proud, and I would like to introduce another one of my amazing colleagues, Assemblymember Joanne Simon.
Thank you. So thank you. Thank you, Governor, for your support and for really leading the country on gun violence reduction. It's so important. And to my colleagues who are also sponsors of these important bills. So, you know, today in New York and across the country, the communities are being endangered by Glock guns. They're the most popular gun, but it's also the easiest to manipulate by use of a Glock switch, which is a converter switch that enables a Glock semi-automatic handgun to become a fully automatic machine gun. Machine guns were outlawed in 1936, and there is a list of things that basically are converter things that manipulate those guns. And so what we did in this bill is we made sure that it's very clear that a Glock switch is I have to get the right word here, a rapid-fire modification device under our laws. And, you know, when you think about things that you can do to keep people safe, how is it not true that one of those things we need to do is encourage manufacturers to take responsibility for the design of their own weapons? If you're going to sell a Glock in New York, you shouldn't be selling a Glock that can be converted into a killing machine. And we are seeing these Glock switches in criminal incidents and takedowns all the time. So this is something we can do, and if they keep selling these guns, we can hold them accountable in New York State. So I thank you very much for all of the folks, my colleagues, the governor, and the advocates who have worked so closely with us to enable this day to happen. Thank you so much. And now I will turn it back over to the governor.
Any on-topic questions? Oh, we have our legislators here? Why not? Sign the bills, here we go.
Great idea.
All right. Oh, good, we have lots of pens. No shortage of pens in this place. All right. All three bills are represented here, and I'm very proud to sign them. I normally do it one at a time, but I got other business right now to deal with, right? There we go.
Thank
Our
you so much.
sponsors, my sponsors first, there we go.
Thank you.
All right. Majority Leader? He left. And he doesn't get a pen. Who wants it to take it to him? I'll take it. You'll take it to him. Thank you. All right, of course you will. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Linda. Billy. Thank you.
I'm going to do a collection.
Yes, yeah, we can have a contest who has the most pens at the end of the time. Son of Naveen. All right. Who's behind me?
I am.
Judy?
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh, the things we do for a free
Tom,
pen.
thank you. We good? Everybody else set?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Here's the bill. The bill's completed in effect. New Yorkers will be safer.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you for what you did for some of us.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. Community's very happy.
I humor him. It's important for his ego, you know?
All right, talk to my therapist.
All right.
Let's close the door, please, and we can get started with Q&A.
I'm your therapist half the time. All right.
Let's start with questions about public safety. Okay, we'll start with Bernie and Zach.
Governor, you've got New York City on here, and, you know, Mayor Eric Adams is running as an independent. Do you think that he has done...
You are so good at segueing from an on-topic to really something
It has
not
to do
related.
with that, though.
Okay, I can't
He's
wait
a
to the end of the
public
question.
safety mayor, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said he ran on a campaign promise of lowering crime in New York City. Do you think that the mayor is the result, you know, you're looking at, I guess, lower numbers, right? New York City compared to statewide. Do you think the mayor is too...
The mayor has been the mayor during this entire time frame. You can draw your conclusions. I have worked closely with the mayor and NYPD and the MTA to ensure that we invest dollars. In fact, everyone knows that the subways are safer today because we actually have, with state dollars, paying for 2 police officers on the overnight every single night. The numbers have dropped since that time, that presence of law enforcement, in addition to the National Guard who've been down there, and our SOS teams are people trying to help those who need a safe place to live or need medical help or getting attention. So yes, this is the time frame of the mayor's tenure. It is also my tenure. We overlap, and we work together on this.
Stay the mayor and run as an independent? Is that
You
a
know
good
what?
idea?
I'm fortunate the mayor I'll be voting for will be a Buffalonian.
Well, Mayor Adams, though, he's ditching the Democratic Party to be an independent. What do you think of that?
Everyone can do what they want. You know what? I'm focused on getting a budget done and public safety matters. So there's a lot of people running for mayor. They're all going to go at it, but I've got a job to do.
So I'm still holding, I'm holding my horses on off topic, but on topic.
Well, thank you.
The bill about credit card process purchases of ammunition. How will this legislation, or how will the state, while enforcing it, implementing it, ensure both the security of the information that's being stored about what people are buying, and could you, well, how will it ensure that the privacy of gun purchases will be maintained, and that what sort of behaviors would trigger state action in terms of, the amount of.
Yeah, so I want to ask Sabrina, because she's been involved in the crafting and also making sure that, we adhere to the right standards. This is not a harassment technique. We are trying to just make sure that we have the early warning signs when someone could be amassing an arsenal to do harm to others. And so that's what this is all about. We think it's information that our law enforcement should have at hand to assess and not just assess, but preferably avoid a tragedy. Anything else to add on that?
And merchant category code,
Microphone.
sorry. Merchant category codes are not something new. It is something that is used for various other categories, and so this is just adding firearms and ammunition to that category. So all of the same rules that banks have to use for the privacy of their data would still apply.
But could you speak to the type of activities that would trigger, some sort of state intervention?
So this.
Ammunition, that type of thing.
So this is a first step, right? It allows the financial institutions to gather this valuable financial data for a company that is primarily selling ammunition, firearms, and firearm activity. And so it would allow them to track suspicious data like they do with any other financial transactions. And so right now, that information is going to the banks. They can collaborate with law enforcement, again, like they do on any other case.
Anything else on guns or public safety? Go ahead.
Well, just on that, how do you differentiate somebody going maybe ski shooting or somebody who's in competitions that would normally buy bulk ammunition or something like that? How would you differ?
This is, again, the information is collected by the credit card companies, and they'd be the ones who, as we often get flags, if I use my credit card out of state, I get a flag. This will just put out a flag, and it allows us to identify, is this suspicious or is this normal behavior?
Okay, Governor, one of your top priorities you said in the budget for public safety is the restrictions on mask use. Where are you? Do you know if your budget office has shown new language? Do you think you guys are close on that measure?
I appreciate the question, and all I can say is all will be known when we wrap up the budget. That when I'm in negotiations at this table tomorrow afternoon, today, yesterday, and almost every day before that, I don't think it's appropriate that we talk publicly about the give and take that's required. But at some point, whenever we break, whenever we're done, we'll be happy to explain what went into the decision-making in each of the elements of our budget.
Okay, hold on, Rob.
Yes, Governor, would any of the bills you just signed have had any way of stopping what happened in Buffalo in 2022? Is there any direct connection or cause between what happened that day and these measures?
I was just thinking about that, but is this an individual who would have seen the warning and done something else? I don't know. It's something that I guess we'll never know. I don't know that he amassed a large stockpile of ammunition, but I can check the facts on that. But we did stop that from ever happening again because he was 18 years old when he went out and bought the AR-15 or AK-47, I believe it was, and then he was able to go down to Pennsylvania, get an enhancement so he could treat it basically like a machine gun. So we have now stopped that from happening because you have to be 21 And we also don't allow those enhancements in our state. And also, as Simon explained, that we don't allow the Glock to be converted into a weapon of mass destruction. So I don't know if any specifically, but other bills that we have done definitely would have had a role to play, which is, lastly, also the red flag law. The red flag law, as a result of that mass shooting, we have instituted policies which have been incredibly successful, where law enforcement no longer has the discretion, but they are required in a situation where there have been a red flag about someone's behavior, that they go find out whether they have access to guns. I would say that we are number one in the nation, and I believe it's Suffolk County is one of the top in our state, which is one of the top in the nation, in terms of preventing gun violence by taking the hands out of people that are intending to do harm to others, and that shooter would have been in that category as well.
Okay, we're sticking for now with on topics. Alex?
A couple of years ago, you signed a law that requires a waiting period and background checks for ammo purchases. People I've talked to in the North Country have responded to that. It delayed how long it takes to actually purchase a pack of ammunition. By buying more ammunition at one time, it's harder to do, so they buy more than they normally would have. Should anybody be nervous that they will get flagged for regular activity caused by other existing state laws?
This is one that the information is collected by the credit card company, who is also, they have their compliance offices and their individuals who are hired to identify suspicious behavior. They do this all the time. And if they see something that does not look like it's in the common practice of this individual, first time they've ever amassed this, as opposed to someone who's, my brother was a state marksman in Maryland. He went to shows and he had weapons. I mean, you would see whether or not that's a common practice or whether there's a mass stockpiling in a certain period of time. So.
Austin?
Hold on, Tom.
Oh,
I'm happy to do
hold
that.
on. Anything else on guns? Jung Hyun? Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
What would be the certain kinds of information that credit card companies would gather to be able to assess that a person who purchased?
This is something that we're going to be able to work with them on, because we'll have guidelines for them on what our law enforcement experts think is a problem. So that'll be getting out to them. We'll work in cooperation with them, because this is just another data point. I'm not saying it's going to be the be-all or end-all, but it's the combination of decisions like this and the background checks, which I used to conduct as a county clerk. I know how important the background checks are, and the red flag laws and everything else we do. The cumulative effect is that we are, if not the safest, maybe second safest state in the nation when it comes to gun violence and gun deaths, and that's something we're really proud of. So we're always trying to find another way to improve the safety and outcomes. As you can see, a 53% decline in shootings. We are down to numbers back since the 60s and 70s, so that's quite extraordinary.
All right, we're going to move to off topics. Austin, since I called on you already.
So how close, if even in the neighborhood, are you to presenting language to the legislature on your 4 top priorities?
Okay, like close as in horseshoe close, or close near the end zone, or what line am I on in a football game?
Is there a document?
No, I will tell you right now. I have been very clear on what my priorities are for the people of this state. These priorities mirror what they're asking for from their elected leaders. None of them are easy. They would have been done before, right? So by nature, pushing the status quo, as I've done for 3 years, it takes time. You've seen our past budgets. The results have been very favorable to my positions. 3 out of 3 budgets I have done. But no one says yes at hello. No one does. It takes some time for them to understand what we're doing. And they also have the added burden of going back to their conferences and then getting feedback. And they come back to us. And then we say, well, maybe, maybe not. And then they go back again. So it is just a deliberative process. And I think it was back in January when I announced my budget. But then they take time to go through their one houses. So it's just a lengthy process, and I'm not in any rush. I'm truly not in any rush. I will stay here as long as it takes to get the budget that I believe that delivers for New Yorkers.
Elise.
See actual language.
They've been seeing language all along. I think anyone who's saying they're not seeing language is mischaracterizing this process, either intentionally or just basically uninformed. The language has been out there. First of all, it was in my budget, number one, so that language has been out there, but the back and forth has been going on day after day after day. Now, I just received some draft language yesterday from the other side. I asked for it about 3-4 days ago. It showed up at 11 o'clock yesterday. So it goes back and forth. Now, we need some time to look at that. And often there's 25 or 30 lawyers and legislative staff in a room who like to pick it apart, and then we try to put it back together, then we come in here and talk about it. So there is not a time frame, but for anyone to say they're not familiar with language regarding my priorities is wrong.
Elise?
Governor, how do you feel about the budget conversations you're having and, where the overall budget is at this point in time?
I've been very clear in my expectations and my priorities for this budget, which delivers for the people of this great state. We sit here and have very productive conversations, always respectful, a lot of give and take, back and forth, because there is a very healthy respect for the three of us in this room. So I can't give you a time frame at all. I know some of the legislators may be anxious to hit certain vacation plans, but I'm not going anywhere. I don't make vacations, so I'll be here to see this through.
John?
Governor, we talked to Blake on Friday, and he seemed to suggest that whatever tax fee is in place for the MTA should be region-wide rather than just New York City. Does that accurately reflect your position, and do you support a payroll tax increase?
No, we've not decided on the final way to have the revenues necessary to fund the MTA. I think everyone who lives in the region, which as we know is downstate, Long Island, lower Hudson Valley, those are the beneficiaries of having this system, whether it's the $6.2 billion we're going to be spending on Metro North, or the continued billions of dollars we're spending on the Long Island Railroad, or the subway itself. So that is a region that benefits tremendously. And data, as we just look at the people working even in the central business district, as we talked about congestion pricing, 90% of the people arrive there by public transit. So that's a region that benefits, but also understands that without this money, without those investments in basic maintenance, but also enhancements, this region can come to a crippling halt, and we're not going to let that happen.
In the past, the bailout 2 years ago, it was New York City only for the payroll tax.
Well, that was on top of a tax that already covered the region. So there was a regional one up to about 3.2%, and this took it to maybe 3.4%, was only the city. So it's both models have been followed before.
So are you looking at a payroll tax increase now?
I'm saying that I just explained to you the history. I did not tell you what I'm looking at now.
I'm asking, are you?
Well, I'm not telling you.
I mean, is that sufficiently transparent?
Now, listen.
Yeah, Junior told us you're looking at it.
That's fine. We are talking about different options, right? There has to be money raised for this. One option is definitely a payroll mobility tax. There are others who say you should have an income tax increase. There are others who say you should spread it all over the state. I want you to know this, that it's not a matter of transparency when it is still an evolving situation.
Okay, who's next? Kate?
Governor, are you considering including language in the budget that would weaken the substantial equivalency requirements for non-public schools that the Board of Regents passed in 2022? And also, is this the time to have that conversation considering what's going on with the Federal Department of Education?
Well, the Federal Department of Education feels like it's imploding. They're laying off people and don't believe that it has a purpose. We happen to think it does, an important one. In fact, we rely on about $6 billion in the state of New York from the Department of Education to pay for $2 billion for Pell Grants, about another $2 billion for school lunches and other programs. So it's critically important to us. That conversation hasn't come up at the tables.
Okay.
Non-leaders meetings, that's not on the table?
That has not been brought to my attention in a way that there's language or anything else to look at. So I'm not going to say, I think the answer to everybody here is, I'm not going to tell you. That's not how you negotiate. That's not how I deliver for the people of New York, by giving out little bits and pieces, and then you can all go. I know it's maddening for all of you, right? You want to know now. But at some point, the budget will be boring for you to cover, because it'll be in the rearview mirror. You'll be done with it. And you'll have plenty of time to dissect it, tell everybody how great it is, because it's going to be an extraordinary budget that delivers affordability and public safety for New Yorkers. We're getting close. You don't have to wait forever, but summers are nice here too. I don't know how long this is going to take.
After these cuts?
Could be any time. I don't know when it's going to be done. I really am not going to stand here and tell you when it's done, because guess what that does? I've negotiated my entire life. That takes away the power I have to say I'll stay longer. I will stay longer, right? If I tell you I'm done tomorrow, then it all comes to a screeching halt. I want to continue the process until we're done. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stay here till it's done.
But you keep saying, like, you will be in the rearview mirror, but you've also, like, you kind of said as well, you're going to come back after the cuts from the federal government that we think are coming.
If we need to. That's not a definite.
Has that added any urgency at the table? We know that the budget accounts for money that will likely get cut, but is it changing the nature of the conversation?
It's a cloud that's hanging overhead. It's something that is out there, but it's a cloud that is very nebulous. We don't know. We don't know how bad it's going to be. Are these mostly threats? I can only operate in facts and reality. And the reality right now is there have been some cuts that have been accounted for, but also we also have a lot that we just fund ourselves. We have a lot of programs, education and childcare and Medicaid and countless programs that we have a responsibility at this table to figure out how we're going to fund based on the knowledge we have right now.
All right, Tom?
Governor, you mentioned you're not in a rush, but there are people waiting to see what the budget will be. The school districts, municipalities, trying to get money out the door. These districts might not have the time to decide whether they're going to get some money or a lot of money with the cuts we just mentioned. What's your message to them as this process continues to?
They will have the information they need at the time they need it. I know this from doing municipal budgets for 14 years, is that school boards want to know how much money is coming from the municipalities. I get it. And we ran into this a year or two ago when our budget was later, because I wanted to make sure my priorities were enacted, and they were. We also can tell them individually how much money they can count on at a certain point. We're just not there yet. It's way too early. But we're not going to leave them in a precipitous situation. We understand what they need to do.
If there is no rush, why is there a deadline?
I don't know, ask our forefathers. Good luck with that.
Governor, you have.
I don't want to say there's not a rush, but there's not some, I'd love to be done April 1st. I set out with a goal of being done April 1st. I was prepared to be done April 1st. In January, I thought we could be done April 1st. But I can't change the reality that there's a lot of challenging issues for the legislature that I believe are important for New Yorkers. So it takes time to navigate through those waters, but also the legislature has to go back to their members and get buy-in as well. So it's truly not just the three of us. We have to have conversations with a wider group of people. So we will get there. We'll get there. When's your spring show this year, LCA? You'll have plenty of material. You'll have plenty of material for that, but probably done before then.
Governor,
you're not going to get anything out of me on the timing because we don't know. I'm really not I don't know the magic date. I'm just saying I can't wait to keep this from the press. We don't know that date. I keep saying we have a path to get done in a couple days. We have a path to get done in a couple days. And I keep driving the train down the track, but also there's a whole process of engagement with the legislature that has to be conducted by the leaders. I get that. So.
Okay, Zach and then Rebecca.
Governor, you've been pretty consistent over the last 4 years that income tax increases are something you would not support, and it's just a red line for you. Does it remain so? You just kind of alluded to the legislators pushing for that with the MTA. And would corporate taxes also be a red line for you? Corporate tax increases.
If there's one thing I can say with certainty. He can't wait. Look at his face. He's like, no income tax increases. In fact, I'm looking to institute the largest middle-class tax rate cut in 70 years.
But including on, what about on high earners? Does that remain a red line? You've been
If it's an income tax, the answer is no.
Okay, and corporate taxes?
If it's an income tax, the answer is no.
All right, Rebecca.
Governor, you are the leader of the Democratic Party in New York State, and the mayor of the largest city in the state has declared he is running as an independent. Do you think that's appropriate? Do you have thoughts as the leader of the state party? And also as the leader of the state party, what kind of message do you think you're sending that for the 4th year in a row, you are treating a deadline for the budget as a suggestion as opposed to a statutory requirement?
If I was hung up on the deadline, we would not have the budget that I believe in my heart is the best budget for the people of New York. And that's why I am a fighter. Surrender is always easy. It's not something I ever engage in, though. So we have had 3 budgets. Please look at the record of what I started out to do, and all the hostility or dissension or criticism or the naysayers who said it'll never happen. Please track that record over the last 3 years, last 3 budgets, and see how it worked out for me by waiting. I'm proud of that record. April 1st is a great date. I'd love to hit it, but I am very successful in overtime.
And in terms of the mayor, as I said, you are the leader of the
I am the
state.
leader of the Democratic Party, and also one thing I know about my party, we have a lot of different opinions and voices and individuals, and I have to respect all of them. If they want to,
He's not running as a Democrat.
well, I also had a mayor of Buffalo not run as a Democrat too, so
Do you think that was appropriate?
I said, people do what they need to do. I will always run as a Democrat, if anybody's wondering. I'm running as a Democrat next year and beyond, so just want to get that out
So
there.
you're okay, so people
I'm-
do what they need to do to stay in office, so you'd be
If-
okay
if-
with him?
If people make their own decisions, people decide what they want to
City
do.
of New York, so you okay with him doing it for his own personal?
I have a lot of control with respect to the city of New York, but not who the mayor is, what the voters want, what they'll decide to do with this and whatever. So I'm not going to stand here and say, oh my God, he did something else. Like, I have a job to do. Can anybody point out, I have a lot more to do than worry about who's running for mayor today and tomorrow and what party line they're on. I know you think that's what I'm obsessed with. I'm truly not. I've got to do something else that you're all asking about, which is the budget.
All fair points, but you were prepared to remove him from office, and you wanted the city council and the legislature to impose sanctions on City Hall and his ability to govern. But now
Okay.
you're saying anybody can run and he can do whatever he wants.
No, I'm not sure where I said I was going to remove him from office. Can anyone check the record?
Considering it.
Because people are asking me, are you considering it? Of course, when you ask me that question, obviously it's in my mind at that moment, so obviously it's being considered. I'm not going to
He
play
said
games.
yesterday, he goes.
I'm not going to play games here, guys. I'm not playing games. Let's get serious about this. If he's, if,
Questions.
I know these are, I know, but let me tell you this. Anyone who wants to run as an independent, Democrat, or Republican, or any party they want can do that. Guess what? Despite what's happening in Washington, this is still a democracy, and I'm going to adhere to that. So I will work with whomever the voters of New York City want me to work with. I even have to work with a guy in the Oval Office because enough voters wanted him in office, okay? That's not a prerogative I have to pick and choose. So that's the answer.
Did he give you a heads up?
Rob, and then we're gonna go.
Governor, on masks, when we were here in the Red Room about a year ago talking about this issue, Trump was not president. Things have changed significantly since then, and a lot of lawmakers tell me they're concerned about civil rights and that this could have a chilling effect on protesters. What's your response to that, especially given how the state of play has changed with the president?
I have always been opposed to people using masks to harass other people and threaten them and be intimidating or to harm them. That position has not changed regardless of who the occupant of the White House is.
Rob?
Well, Governor, where are you on the proposal for New York Heats? Is that something that you think you could support in this year's budget or otherwise?
I've not had budget conversations on that.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Theory would support or not?
Why did you